Thank you for coming back. We have Donna Rain Shostak here on behalf of Third Mutual. Welcome back. Nice to see you.
Good to see you this morning.
And you know, you guys had a doozy of a meeting, and I bless all of your hearts, you know, for staying there as long as you do to get things done. So we appreciate that. So of course, you're going to give us some brief highlights today of what had happened at the meeting. So thank you.
Yes, and I've chosen just a few, but the ones that I think are of most interest to our members, and that's really what's important today.
Okay, fantastic. And so you have some things that have been approved.
Yes.
Okay.
And among the many items that were up for approval, two of those that we approved. First of all, related to central air conditioning and those big, heavy units that have to be outside. And when this community was first built, I don't know if anybody had air conditioning centrally, and it was nice and cool in the summertime, so it wasn't needed. But over the years, that has increased. And so there was something that had to be done about that. The units were being put up on the roofs, which was getting a little bit crowded. But more than that, a lot of activity, difficult to service them. The servicemen have to climb up there and go back down for other parts, et cetera. So we approved just a revision in the air conditioning permitting, et cetera. And that is, those units will be, whenever possible, and hopefully in most cases possible, placed on the ground floor. So servicing will be easier. It decreases the impact on roofs from people walking, shaking machinery, et cetera. And also, given what's happening these days, leave some room for solar panels in the future if we need it. So
that's a good idea.
So that was pretty, actually, it was pretty exciting. And second, which is very exciting, actually, has to do with our discretionary investments. And discretionary investments is another way of saying our reserve fund. And in strict accordance with the legal requirements that we have from the state, they are invested in instruments that are backed by the federal government. And our Treasury bills were maturing on the 23rd of February, just recently, and the decision was made with advice from those who are far more informed than I, with advice to something we call laddering them, so 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, giving us access to the funds if we need them, and the ability to move with interest rates depending upon what they are doing and maximize our return without risk. Because that's the most, safety is the most important thing.
Well, exactly, and that is, you're right, and with the way interest rates are right now, that's a great advantage because they're paying pretty well.
They're paying very well, and what's really exciting, and the second point on the slide that you have up there, what's really exciting is they matured on February 23rd. All indications are that the Federal Reserve is going to do at least one more increase, and that would happen, if it does, on March 22nd. And we don't want to miss that. So what the board voted to do, and that was very important, was when this matured on the 23rd, put those in a treasury for a month. That we would be able to, the day after the reserve meeting, reinvest all of it in that laddered approach. And hopefully not only pick up an extra quarter of a point or so, which is anticipated, so we could maximize our return. But in addition, during that month, they will be earning over 4% interest. So that was very exciting to see that happen. And so I thought that our members would enjoy hearing that.
Well, it's a good time to invest in those types of secure things, right, as you mentioned. So perfect.
And next, we also, this was an approval, but it was really more of a clarification. The pet policy was clarified. It was a bit confusing for people, and so the primary points on that were that dogs, if they're older than 4 months, they must be licensed with the city of Laguna Woods, have a current rabies vaccination, and evidence of that on their collar. There are little tags they can get. Cats, on the other hand, which tend to be indoor pets and not go out, can optionally be licensed. But if they're licensed, that evidence of rabies vaccine must also be there. So that was, again, more of a clarification. We always had a pet policy, but sometimes in reading it, it wasn't as clear as we would have liked it to
be. You know, sometimes people do walk their cats.
Yes.
So
yes,
do they have to
do.
have the same licensing as a dog at this time? Or
Well,
you don't think so?
that's probably still gray. There are so few cats that are walked.
I know.
And I've noticed what I was out one day and someone was walking their cat in one of the strollers that we often see dogs in, but this one, because a cat might be tempted to go chasing something, had the screen around it that was zipped up, and so
How
the
funny
cat
is
was in
that?
this little walking house.
I
So
love it.
again, if that's the way the cat is walked, then But again, it's optional depending upon how the cat lives.
All right, perfect,
Okay.
perfect.
And then sometimes it's as important what we don't do as what we do. When we intend to do something and we hear concerns from residents, sometimes it's more important to defer any decision.
Okay.
And on something that turned out to be of concern for residents, we did just that.
Okay.
And that is in regard to the potential for washer-dryer installations in the Garden Villa buildings. Lots of people have been asking about them for years. We understand that people purchasing here, new residents, have said, what? You know, I can't have a unit in my apartment. So the thought was this was going to be a really great thing. And it was heavily researched. And of course, people don't necessarily know the research that went into it. What was proposed is very limited. It's not washers and dryers. You notice on the slide it says washer/dryer. It's a single unit.
Oh.
Units designed for apartments. Very, very low noise. In fact, I have been told less noise than a dishwasher makes.
Okay.
And that's concerning. You know, people were saying, oh, these machines are going to be going, the noise factor will be terrible.
Sure.
And the bigger concern of leaks. Well, it turns out that these machines, these washer-dryer combinations, are designed for apartments and have greater safety regarding leaks than our dishwashers do.
Okay.
But if people don't know that, it's hard to make a decision about whether or
Right.
not you think it's a good idea.
Right.
So since there were several residents who came and expressed concern, and it was important to get the proper information out. And the Garden Villa Association will be meeting on March 9th. So in this case, instead of putting it on the 28 days for consideration to be passed in 28, we deferred that completely. It'll be on the agenda for the Garden Villa Association. And those are the folks who really need to understand, know, and then they can think about what would be best. So the only possible downside is they might have to get a bigger room for that Garden Villa meeting.
Well, yeah, I mean, if people are concerned. So in the Garden Villa Manors, there are spaces for this?
It would be usually that when those are done, they're in a cabinet.
Okay.
They're really not that
So that is
big.
definitely interesting how they have cabinets where they're like self-contained.
It's one unit, it's self-contained, and it's interesting. We have an RV, we have a motorhome, and years ago we had one. We were living in our motorhome 7 months out of the year, so we had a washer-dryer.
Right.
Motorhomes are not very big, and the noise factor from that machine 25 years ago was almost non-existent.
Oh, interesting.
So in 25 years, I'm assuming they've even improved that.
Right.
And leaks again, those were put in a vehicle that moved down bouncing roads and didn't leak.
Okay.
So I think that people need to hear what is the real potential for leaks, the real potential for noise. And so, as I say, I think one of the most important things that day was we listened to the concerns and said, let's get the education. So people from maintenance and construction will be at that Garden Villa meeting to give the information.
Oh, so that's going to be on the 9th, March
of March.
9th. Now, will they have pictures and have some sort of, so people can actually see?
I don't know what they're going to do, but they're pretty good in their preparations when they know they're doing it to explain
visual
it.
always such a good thing, then people can see it, see how big it is, see how it works.
Yeah, and so what's really important is getting the information out and not, sometimes we get concerned and it turns out we may not have had the right information to begin with. So that's probably, in a nutshell,
I love it.
5.5 hours worth of meeting.
Man, it wouldn't it be nice if you could just get the Cliff Notes every time rather than sitting through the 5 hours? But nonetheless, I mean, I'm glad
that's
you're
what we're
able to
there for.
Exactly.
And it's important. And our residents have a voice and they need to express that voice.
Well, right, and I'm sure that they all appreciate the fact that you went ahead and you're going to do the due diligence on the research that is needed to be able to bring those units to the garden
and actually,
villas.
the research apparently has been done, and
Okay.
that was why it was proposed
Oh, gotcha.
to be put on, on our 28-day notice. But apparently, the information and what was contained in the research didn't get out as
Oh,
it should have.
I
And
see.
so, yeah, so the research was done. There was, very well thought out, in fact.
Got it.
But if you don't get the information out,
Yeah, people aren't going to know, that is for sure. All right, so let's just recap that one to make sure everybody knows that the next meeting on March 9th, it's the Garden Villa Manners meeting that will address this particular issue.
yes.
Okay.
And are the Garden Villa meetings televised? This one maybe should be, otherwise there'll never be a building big enough to hold.
Well, you know what? I'm not sure, so we'll have to double
let's
check
see
on
what we
that.
can do, or at least maybe
yeah,
tape
and
it
we
and-
usually let everybody know about the meetings, when they'll be, and that kind of thing. So before
this
that,
will
we'll
be
know.
important,
Yeah.
but important for people to know. Yes, the research has been done.
Got it.
Apparently quieter and safer from leaks than dishwashers, which everybody has.
Yeah.
So it's getting the information out to our members.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate you coming in.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Lisa, for having me.
Have a great week. All right, and if you want more information about what we've just discussed, you can always send an email to generalmanager@vmsinc.org, and it will be sent to the appropriate person. And we will keep you informed about the March 9th meeting that will be coming up for the Garden Villas. We'll be right back.